Hello, everyone. My name is Farah. I'm a modeler by background. In Baringa, I work in our gas and LNG market advisory team, and I lead our gas market fundamentals.
Hi, everyone. I don't want to break it. I'm head of the gas modeling function over in the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. Today, we're going to be talking to you about a partnership project between DESNZ, Energy Exemplar, and Baringa regarding something called the long-term gas model. And it's very much looking at the collaborative approach rather than sort of like the deep technical aspects of PLEXOS. So DESNZ, for those who don't know, so DESNZ is the UK's central ministerial department for all things energy. We're responsible for setting things like policy legislation, setting targets, that sort of thing. We own and sponsor public bodies such as NESO. And yeah, we're basically the government department for all things energy. We have four primarily functions, that is protecting UK's energy security and protecting both bill payers and taxpayers, supporting net zero and reducing emissions, as well as protecting the economy and supporting jobs. We regularly work with energy consultants such as Baringa.
And why Baringa for this project? We have 20 years of experience in using PLEXOS for power. We have extensive energy systems modeling expertise. We have our own global gas market model, and we have gas market expertise. So knowing PLEXOS, knowing energy modeling and energy systems modeling, in addition to gas market knowledge, enabled us to deliver this project.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, DESNZ is responsible for things like gas supply, gas demand, gas security pricing, and carbon intensity, and we really wanted to improve our understanding of those aspects. And as part of that, it became very apparent that we want to improve our modelling, and therefore would have liked to get a new gas model as part of that. And as part of that, we wanted to define some functional requirements around that. So as part of this new model, we wanted a single model that was essentially harmonious rather than with disparate parts for supply and demand. We wanted it all to be together. We wanted to improve the temporal resolution around that, going from a coarse to a much finer resolution. As you'll be aware, gas is a global commodity, as the previous years and months have pretty much proved. We really wanted to understand the international component of that much better. And as part of that, we also wanted to better understand price dynamics associated with that. As part of that as well, there was operational requirements around the new gas model. We wanted it to be usable by both analysts such as myself, but also non-analysts, so those involved with policy development and that sort of thing. We also wanted it to be able to slot into DESNZ's existing modelling infrastructure and landscape and the assumptions around that. And we also wanted our policy colleagues to be able to essentially feedback what they wanted to us and us to be able to implement that within this new modelling landscape. So as part of that, we put out an invitation to tender, and that invitation tender was successfully won by both Baringa and who suggested using Energy Exemplar.
So we, Baringa, partnered with Energy Exemplar to lead this project. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our partnership. Energy Exemplar brought a working model for this project from day one. That is PLEXOS gas model license for DESNZ users, in addition to the European Gas Dataset that already had lots of inputs that needed for running a gas model for Europe, with technical support for onboarding the team and the training that they require to start learning how to work with PLEXOS. Baringa's role here was to embed the capability to enhance the usability of the model and to enable DESNZ team to independently run and operate the model. Baringa led the project. We validated inputs within PLEXOS, within the EE dataset. We aligned those inputs with DESNZ's view from their legacy models and different inputs from different departments. We added bespoke functionalities that DESNZ was interested in, and they needed that for their specific use cases. We developed tools to streamline input updates into PLEXOS, as well as tools to efficiently visualize the outputs that they wanted to regularly look at in different scenario runs, with addition to lots of user upskillings and documentation so that the new users of the model can easily pick that up and learn how to use it. DESNZ's role was internal alignment and hands-on use of the model to make sure that with Baringa's role ramping down and Energy Exemplar as well, they are able to use the model independently. They told us about the specifications that they needed for the model. They specified the required specification. They had the internal engagement and coordination. They provided us their data and their inputs from their model so that we can integrate that into PLEXOS. They used the model on a day-to-day basis and even led some of the work streams to add some functionalities so that they make sure that they can use the model independently. So we talked about the project, what was the requirements of the project. We talked about the partnership, and this is about our approach. To deliver what DESNZ wanted in terms of operational requirements and functionalities, we developed this an end-to-end model, in the center of which is PLEXOS simulation module that creates simulation results. We developed an input module that integrated DESNZ's view of different assumptions, including UK and Europe demand, Norway supply, some UK infrastructure capacity into PLEXOS in an efficient way. So these were some of the inputs that DESNZ needed to update regularly and run with different assumptions in their different scenarios. So they wanted this mapping of the inputs and integrating of those inputs into PLEXOS to be efficient. That's why we developed that input module. And the other side, you see that this is another tool, output module, that directly gets the simulation results and develops a dashboard with some of the charts and tables that DESNZ, the team, the modeling team, and also other policy makers, decision makers that want to still see the results, even if they don't run the model, were interested to look at and see. For instance, supply mix, demand mix, being able to see the output of the model in terms of supply mix, demand mix from different scenarios. This tool enabled them to see the results very efficiently and streamlined. So this is the end-to-end model and our approach that we developed, in the center of that being PLEXOS. In addition to that, we had the input module and output module that integrated DESNZ's view into PLEXOS very efficiently and enabled them, the modelers and non-modelers, to see the outputs. So a couple of things around each of these modules. So this input module mapped DESNZ's input into PLEXOS automatically. So DESNZ's view, for instance, on demand, they had a different sectoral granularity, temporal granularity. We took all of those views from their different models and mapped that into PLEXOS so that it can be fed into the model, the simulation model, and be run efficiently. So it was integrated into their existing models. They didn't need to change anything. They just needed to run the input module, and the mapping was automatic. And it was a simple interface, so even if someone from their team didn't want to learn how to run the model, but still wanted to change some of the inputs, they could do that easily. On the simulation module, there were some bespoke functionalities that DESNZ was interested in. A couple of them are listed here. For instance, storage decay curves. Storage assets in UK specifically, they wanted to have a dynamic withdrawal rate, which is dependent on the level of gas in storage. For instance, I'm going to talk about it a bit more detail in the next slide. That's something that we built as an extra functionality because it didn't exist in the model. Demand response was very high level. They wanted a more granular demand response. That one of the team members developed that with Baringa's support. There is a network constraint in UK Southeast that wasn't built into PLEXOS. We added that as well. And some features on daily volatility. The volatility of demand in PLEXOS dataset is smooth, but for DESNZ use cases, they needed more volatility, higher volatility that I'm going to talk about as well. On the output module, it was purposely built to be easily accessible by non-modelers. It was automated so that they could easily get the results from simulation module and put that in a very an app that could be accessible by anyone and immediately see the results by multi-scenarios. And it gave access to different types of charts and tables that was very commonly used by different users within DESNZ. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the journey of model development. You see that we have the 3 partners here, and the involvement over time has changed. So at the beginning, you see Baringa's involvement was much higher. We wanted to develop this end-to-end model, make sure DESNZ can use it, and then gradually over time, once we develop some functionalities, you see that Baringa's role ramps down, DESNZ picks it up, learn how to use model, own the model, and Baringa's role is lower. And you see Energy Exemplar, at the beginning, we worked very closely with the team, with data team, with solution team to better understand the assumptions behind the model and see if they are suitable or we need to adapt them for DESNZ needs. Again, over time, it became a bit less. So there are some phases that I'm going to walk you through. The first phase shows that we start from the EE base case, and we end up having an end-to-end model with input mapping all of DESNZ inputs into the model, developing input and output modules, and DESNZ working with us, providing us with their models and data, and Energy Exemplar working with DESNZ team on onboarding. By the end of this stage, we had the end-to-end model with PLEXOS module being at the center of it, input module and output module, all of them were working. The second phase is getting from this end-to-end model to an enhanced model. So we worked very closely with DESNZ to understand what are the requirements of the gas system that they want to be included into PLEXOS. So we added some bespoke functionalities to that. We had some enhancement of GB dataset, again, to make sure that they are adapted based on their use cases and useful for the type of the use cases that DESNZ wanted to run the model for, and DESNZ started to use the model for a use case. Phase C, you see that Baringa's role starts to ramp down already. We have the enhanced model, it's end-to-end model, it's working. DESNZ started already to use that for a use case, and now DESNZ starts to use that for other use cases, and start to look at the model results and validate them and compare them with the legacy model to see how much they can trust the model. And then at the same time, we were working with DESNZ on specific trainings and to help them to take the ownership. So we move from enhanced model, our role is going down, DESNZ is picking up, and we are gradually handing the ownership of the model to DESNZ. Phase D, we move from this handover to DESNZ completely owning the model. DESNZ starts to develop some of the functionalities themselves, so they are very capable of doing that at this stage. They can update the model themselves. By that, I mean we changed a lot of inputs in the model. We added some bespoke functionalities to the model. Now that EE updates their data set, they need to be able to do all of that on themselves. So we had some trainings on that. We had an extensive documentation on that, and DESNZ is able to do that themselves. We had ongoing Baringa support here. We had ongoing Energy Exemplar support here, but at this stage, DESNZ own the end-to-end model. And then phase E is basically DESNZ expanding their use cases, training more users, using the model for different scenarios, and learning from the model results. And at the same time, we Baringa, our role is much lower from the beginning, but still helping and supporting DESNZ for some additional functionalities. Here I'm going to talk to you a little bit about two of the bespoke functionalities that we developed. One is the storage decay curves that I alluded to before. So in this chart, you see that the max withdrawal rate for one storage asset is constant. That's what we have in the base case. But what DESNZ needed was that each of the storage assets in DESNZ need to have more of a dynamic withdrawal rate, so that the withdrawal rate is dependent on the level of fullness of the storage. So you see that we have built in that functionality, and now it's dynamic. And then on the demand volatility, in EE's base case, they use a 5-year average for daily demand to represent an average of 5 years as a demand volatility that suits lots of use cases. In DESNZ's case, because they wanted to use the model for security of supply, we included an additional tool that made it very easy and efficient for them to change the volatility of demand and align it with one specific year, or using stochastic analysis to do that. So you see that in the after, we have higher volatility. So these are the two examples of functionalities that was needed for DESNZ's use case, and we incorporated that.
Yeah, so there are a really wide range of use cases that DESNZ is and will be using the model for. A lot of them are too sensitive to talk about in a public forum such as this, but we will be using it for various key things, such as N-1 assessments, which I'll talk to you about shortly, better understanding supply and demand margins, assessing current and planned policy and legislation, assessing geopolitical risks and scenarios, better understanding infrastructure changes, both entrances and exits, better understanding gas demand pathways and the emissions surrounding those, and much, much more. So one of the examples that we will be using and are using the LTGM for is something called the N-1 assessment, which is a legal test that DESNZ is required to conduct every year. So the N-1 is an infrastructure test that assesses if the largest piece of gas infrastructure in the UK, that being Milford Haven regasification terminal, if that goes down during a peak demand day, that being a 1 in 20 demand event, would we still meet essentially the demand with that reduced supply? This picture is just illustrative, again, due to sensitivities, but it gives you an idea of the things that the model is currently being used for. Something I can talk to you about on the next slides. So this is a ENTSOG scenario. So ENTSOG is the European Network Transition System Operators of Gas. They have various defined scenarios that are often used to assess models. One of their scenarios, scenario 1, is Europipe 2 going down. So Europipe 2 is the largest piece of offshore gas infrastructure in Europe, and it connects Norway to Germany. And the ENTSOG scenario 1 is Europipe 2 going down for 6 months during a winter period. And the idea is to assess how that changes things like price and security. We ran this in partnership with Baringa for this scenario. The main findings for this was that essentially the Norwegian supply through Europipe 2 was obviously shut down, but it was rerouted via alternative European countries. So the alternative pipeline from Norway to Germany was maximised. It was routed via Belgium, France, and the UK. And by doing that, Germany essentially managed to avoid any form of shortage via that rerouting, as well as a reduction in exports to Germany's surrounding countries. And this was run to assess the LTGM's functionality both for the UK and for European European-wide security assessments. Regarding prices, German prices slightly increased, but very much focused on the UK. The national balancing point didn't show any sort of real change, as well as the TTF in Netherlands also didn't show any sort of real change. But this gives you an example of the sort of the scenarios that we are assessing in DESNZ. Yeah, so overall the project has been a success via a close collaboration between the three organisations, and we are very much in a sort of strong place where we can use the model independently of both Energy Exemplar and Baringa, and this has very much been on these sort of 6 pillars throughout the project. Those being structured training sessions, so we've been in very capable hands with both Baringa and Energy Exemplar, answering all our questions and getting us up to speed with things. We've had regular and ad hoc coaching, again, by both Energy Exemplar and Baringa, be that for bespoke functionality or regular baseline functionality within PLEXOS. We've got a really great list of the documentation and all the changes, be that bespoke function or baseline, that they've made, and the sort of understanding of the end-to-end pipeline to keep us on top of things. And again, that supports us training up other people within DESNZ. We've very much integrated this project, this long-term gas model, within the existing and legacy models and infrastructure and assumptions within DESNZ. So now it's a very smooth sort of functioning of existing legacy infrastructure into the LTGM. We've very much had a hands-on approach throughout all this project with the LTGM and PLEXOS, again with support from Baringa, but also Energy Exemplar. And then lastly, this hands-on experience and this hands-on approach has now allowed us to develop functionality within the house without necessarily relying upon Baringa or Energy Exemplar to do these things. So in summary, we can now run this model independently, and this now has advanced the functionality and the roles that DESNZ is required to perform. Previously, we could obviously do security supply N-1 and add an understanding of import dependency, but we've now drastically improved that functionality. So we've got better temporal resolution. Previously, it was pretty coarse. Now it's pretty fine. Improved topology regarding infrastructure and assets, a better understanding of demand flexibility and modelling, and significant improvement in understanding sort of international aspect and international components of the gas system, as well as a better understanding of price. And again, just to reiterate, that's been in partnership between Energy Exemplar, Baringa, and DESNZ, and that's essentially how it's been enabled. And we're right on time for questions to the audience.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very helpful and useful for I think everyone here to see it. I'm from National Grid. I think just have 2 quick questions. There was a slide when you show that during the outage from Norwegian gas supply, what happened is the gas was rerouted from Germany or from France with the UK. I'm just wondering, because I think we all know that the LNG has become more popular, not only in Europe, but even in the gas supply for UK as well. So, but we haven't seen the importance of LNG supply if there is some Norwegian cut down production from Norway. And the second question is, when the Iran war started, how do you see this model benefit DESNZ or Baringa to see the reduced supply from the Middle East? And is there any chance that it will be based on the model? Is there any chance that we will probably look for more increased supply from Norway, or more from the pipeline imports from Africa or from the Russia?
Would you like to answer the first one?
Maybe,
for the pipelines?
yeah, I can answer the first one. So I think if I understood you correctly, you were talking about Norwegian supply declining. This is like next year assessment. It's not in 10 years' time. So Norwegian supply is relatively at the same level that is at the moment. So this scenario definitely can be run at different times or in the future when the level of both UK and Norway supply is different from now. But this specific one was focused for like next year, basically looking at the same level of Norway supply, if that was your question, hopefully, if I got that correctly.
Yeah. For the second question, so the LTGM will be used for all the scenarios shown. I'm going to have to decline on a public forum to say what we're using it for, in essence.
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, the model is capable, like the team are capable of now, and the model enables them to run those sort of scenarios. So that's a specific scenario that, yeah, needs to be run and talked about in a different session. I think our purpose here was more to talk to you about the capability, our approach, how we developed that, how we partnered, how we worked together. But is the model able to model that? Yes, to some extent. We had a European data set, so the LNG from Qatar, for instance, is not modeled directly in this module, but there are ways that we can, as proxy, model that, and we developed that for the team so that they can use it for those purposes.
Hello, Lee Mannion with AirGrid. I was just wondering, I'm not sure if you're allowed to say, but what is the maximum capacity you have in your N-1 for the gas turbine unit?
I'm not sure I even know it off the top of my head. The N-1 capacities.
You may need to take that away. Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. Sorry.
Any more questions? I think that's us wrapped. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.